Hi, everybody. I wanted to start doing readings for kids that you guys can share, and that way, if you don't have time, you can just play the video and they can have a story. I'm going to try to start doing this every Friday or most Fridays. And I've been wanting to do it a long time, but every time I think about it, I always look homeless. But I've decided I don't care. I'd rather just do it and the kids don't care what I look like. So this is what we're going to do. So this book is called The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears. And we recently got this within the last 2 weeks, and it's quickly become a favorite for my kids. Okay, so The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears by Alistair Chisholm. What kind of story shall we have tonight? Asked Dad as he turned to Jamie in bed one evening. A made-up one, said Jamie, with a prince and a bear and a witch and more bears. All right, said Dad, why not? This, said Dad, is a story called The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears by Jamie's dad. Once upon a time, said Dad, there lived a valiant prince. He was a brave and noble prince, and he lived in a far-off kingdom where he... How far off? Asked Jamie. What? Asked Dad. How far off was the kingdom? The kingdom, said Dad, was far, far away on the top of the highest mountain in the world, Mount Really, Really Tall, where fierce bears and dragons and wolves prowl. Can you guys see the dragons and the wolves in there? That's Abby's favorite part, are the wolves. She thinks they're so cute. How fierce were the bears? Asked Jamie. Very fierce, said Dad. Enormous and shaggy with thick matted hair and vicious claws as big as your head. So how did the prince get past the bears then? He climbed down the cliffside where the bears couldn't reach, said Dad. Can you guys see how the prince is climbing down? Wow, said Jamie. With a horse as well? Yes, said Dad. He carried his horse on his back. Wow, he was very strong, said Dad. And this is the prince carrying the horse down on his back. How silly is that? So, said Dad, there was this prince, and he was very brave. And one day he set off to rescue a beautiful princess. Why wouldn't the princess rescue the prince? Complained Jamie. Mom says princesses in stories are rubbish. Well, in this story, it's the prince. I want it to be the princess, said Jamie. All right, replied Dad. Why not? The very brave princess set off. And here's our princess setting off on her wild adventure. No, actually, I want the prince, said Jamie. The prince, exclaimed Dad, set off to rescue the princess. The princess was a prisoner in a dark tower at the edge of the forest. She was being held there by her wicked aunt, who was really a witch with an evil eye. And that's our witch. How evil? So evil that it could turn you into stone, said Dad. Or jello? Asked Jamie. No, stone. But maybe jello sometimes? Well, okay, yes, sometimes, said Dad. Good, said Jamie. I like jello. And then we have some before and after pictures. So the rabbit turned to stone, but the bear turned to jello. And the dragon turned to stone, but the wolf turned to jello. The witch locked the prince up in the tower. But why did he do that? She did it to set a trap for the prince. The witch hated the prince because he had laughed at her only friend. A tiny green frog just as big as your thumb, who lived in the folds of the witch's cloak. So here's our little frog friend living in the witch's cloak. He's so tiny. And that was him laughing at her friend. Is laughing at people nice? Mm-mm. And so it was the prince who rode for many miles until he reached the tower, a terrible, awful place called Castle Broccoli, said Jamie darkly. Castle Broccoli. I don't like broccoli, muttered Jamie. At the top of the disgusting, hideous Castle Broccoli, the prince looked for the princess. But before he could rescue her, here is Castle Broccoli with all of its hideousness. The witch caught him, shouted Jamie. The witch caught him, added Dad. And they had a fight, shouted Jamie. And they had a fight, agreed Dad. Because the witch was really a ninja, said Jamie. Because the witch was really a ninja? Yes, exactly, said Dad. The witch, who was really a ninja, attacked the prince with a mighty leaping kick. Look, they're fighting with broccoli. How crazy. And then she caught him. And that's the witch as a ninja. Can you believe it? What a silly story. This is a fun page. Are you ready? But he dodged, and she flew over the castle wall. And look at that. Who's ready for her at the bottom? All the bears, right? And was eaten by the bears, said Dad dramatically. Oh, said Jamie. Dad looked down. What's wrong? He asked. I liked the witch, said Jamie. She was a ninja, and she had an evil eye and a frog. And anyway, it was all the silly prince's fault for laughing, and she never got to turn anyone into Jell-O. Said Dad. Right. The witch was eaten by the bears, he said, or so it seemed. Look at Jamie's feeling sad and worried for the witch, right? Who's falling. But at the last minute, the princess, who was secretly a famous jewel thief called Fingers Malloy, picked the lock of her cell and ran to the wall, threw down a grappling rope, and caught the witch. Look at that. Okay. But then the tiny frog fell out of the witch's cloak. Oh no, said Jamie. Oh no, said the prince, who was Dad. The witch grabbed the frog, and the prince and princess heaved her back up. So she caught it, and they're hauling her back up, right? And the horse helped, said Jamie. And the horse helped, of course, said Dad. Together they pulled the witch and her frog back up to the top of the castle and to safety. Hooray! The witch was so grateful to them for rescuing her frog that she said sorry for capturing the princess. And the prince said sorry to the witch for laughing at her frog. And then the prince and princess, who was secretly the jewel thief, Fingers Malloy, set off home for their next adventure. Look at that. They got her all the way up with the horse's help. And then they all hugged. As night fell and the stars twinkled over the land of Mount Really, Really Tall, the witch tucked the frog back into the folds of her cloak where it was nice and warm. Dad tucked Jamie under the covers. How warm? Asked Jamie, blinking sleepily. As warm, said Dad, as the lovely warm bug snuggled up in a rug with a hug from his dad who loves him. How much? Murmured Jamie. As much, whispered Dad softly, as your daddy loves you. Daddy, whispered Jamie. Yes? What about the bears? Don't worry, said Dad. We'll find out about them tomorrow. Oh, I guess I should show you the witch, huh? Tucking her frog back in. And that's Dad tucking in Jamie. And he kissed Jamie goodnight and left him to dream. This book is called The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears, and it is so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it.